Warning, listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. Today, we are going to be talking about something that I think there's a lot of myths, mystery, misconceptions around, but it is actually extremely interesting to me, and I know a lot of folks that listen to this show, because today my guest is the best-selling author of Real Magic, The Simple Art of Creating Life and Business That Works Effortlessly. And I know that can apply to a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners out there. But today, my guest, what he is really, really good at is helping highly committed leaders of sales organizations to be more effective in high profit environments without it costing personal freedom, family, and just your life in general. And I'm going to dig right into this and really define what high profit environments, what a high profit environment is, especially when it comes to sales and growing sales organizations. So with that, please welcome to Influencers Radio, Parker Winder. Parker, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, here's what I want to jump right into is when I think of sales organizations or sales leaders, people that are not just, training their organization, but also they have a job of being a motivator. And it's almost like one part psychologist, one part anthropologist. It makes me think of Alec Baldwin's character in Glengarry Glen Ross. That is, coffee is for closers. And that's the way that a lot of people think that sales organizations are run, and a very high stress, type of position. But discovering what you do is you're actually taking it to the opposite extreme of being able to run this type of what a lot of people would consider high stress, to making it a business, one that you can enjoy, and not just enjoy your job, but also be able to enjoy life to a much fuller extent. So let's talk about it. How often do you see that? What is a real sales leader's life like, and how close is it to that Glengarry Glen Ross scene that I talked about?
Well, first of all, I mean, for the people that are listening to this, if they are leaders, I would assume that the most people who would take the time to listen to an interview like this are leaders in their own right. So I know that they're busy. And so, and that's, of course, that character is kind of portrayed that way. He's a very busy man. He's a very successful man. But I will say that if someone's listening to this, I know that there's someone if they're a leader, that they're busy, that their time is valuable. And I just want to first acknowledge them for even taking the time to be on to listen to an interview like this, because that demonstrates their own personal commitment to actually learning, all right, how can I be even better? And I know that typically a lot of the people who struggle, they think that they know it all. They think they don't need help. They've reached a certain level of success, and they think that if they were to get any help, then it means that they somehow are like not enough, or they're lacking, or it would somehow threaten their current level of success. And that's not true. And so, but that particular character, in that movie, he really is kind of, he could be a great guy or whatever, but the fact is he is operating in a very high pressure, high stress kind of environment. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if someone thinks that that's the way to be successful, or that that's the only way to be successful, or that you're somehow more successful if you create that kind of environment, then I would say that they're missing out and definitely shortchanging themselves on what's possible.
Well, and that's one of the things that I thought was really kind of refreshing about your book and your philosophies around this, because it isn't about you got to scrub harder, you got to work more, you have to take it the intensity higher in order to be successful. And I think a lot of people kind of fall into that myth or that characterization of salespeople in high pressure environments. I said at the top of the show that you help people in high profit environments, and I think that's a big difference from high pressure. Can you describe what a high profit environment is?
Yes, absolutely. There's a great distinction between the two, high pressure and high profit, of course. It's possible to have a high profit environment with no pressure, at least not from the part of the person who's doing the making of an offer, whether that be a sales rep who's in a high profit environment sitting at the kitchen table of a prospective family who wants to purchase his service, or whether that be a president of sales who's in his office with what you would call maybe a whale of a recruit, one of those recruits who comes and brings 25 reps with him who are all excellent quality sales reps. And this president of sales needs to navigate through the conversation. How do I create value for this individual to come join my organization without me giving up a huge margin of our business to acquire him as a partner, and everything in between. A high profit environment is basically a conversation with two or more people where they're talking about the possibility of working together.
Well, it sounds like, when we talk about these sales leaders, and there's sales organizations, people that manage salespeople, that manage sales leaders themselves within an organization. This is a much different job or environment than a lot of people think about. People think about a sales manager as a position in a corporation, but in reality, a lot of the folks that you work with, it's I guess it's like the hunter. You eat what you kill. It's 100% commission, and that's a scary prospect for the majority of the world out there. But that's the type of people that you work with. When you see this, do you see these people of not really having that job mentality, but they really are kind of entrepreneurs and business owners in their own right, even if it's under the umbrella of a bigger company?
The ones who are successful, they grab onto the entrepreneur way of thinking and way of operating their business, and they think like that. They invest like that. They plan like that. They're in it for the long haul. They're not trying to make a quick buck over the next couple of years and be out. They want to develop long-term relationships that will last for a long time, and they want to have people come back and work with them year after year. So they're highly committed, the successful ones. And so those are the type of people who end up getting referred to me or to have someone like me in their world. Whether or not they have me isn't what's most important. What's most important is they have someone in their world who will support them powerfully to be that kind of leader who can do that. And if they don't have someone in their world that's playing that role where they don't hold back and they have completely honest conversation with, then they're definitely shortchanging what's possible. But yes, you're right. The successful ones they think of themselves as business owners. I don't care if they have a president of sales who they report to. They don't view it like the president of sales is above them in the organization. They view it like they are the owner of the organization. They're running their business. And the president of sales is someone who they pay money to, and he does a specific role for them in their business. But that my client operates as the owner of the organization, whether that's his title on paper or not. And that's just what successful people do.
A lot of these people, they have to be not just, masters of the sales process, but it is one part psychologist, part anthropologist. And I think that's, some of the characteristics that you bring, because you kind of play that role for the people that you work with, for your clients, because these are people that are struggling. Hey, I need to figure out how to make money. I need to figure out how to make this business work. These are people that are already successful. And it seems like no matter what level you are in any business, there's always the people that are trying to get to six figures. And then there's people that are making six figures, trying to get to seven figures, and seven figures trying to get to eight figures. And it seems like there's always that obstacle, always that stumbling block where they hit a plateau. And a lot of your clients are people that may have plateaued at, into those six figures, seven figures, but they see there's potential, but they're working, 12, 16, 18 hours a day. And it just comes down to, I can't scrub any harder. Is it possible for me to actually grow from here? And what's the first thing that you look at when you see someone that says that, I'm doing six figures, seven figures, but I don't see how I could possibly add any more time or commitment to this than I am right now?
It's completely common. They think that, the way to get more done is to do more things. I had this guy, he reached out to me, he said, okay, I don't have $50,000 to hire you for the year, but what I do have is $25,000. Could we do something for like 6 months? And I said, okay, we can do that. And I kind of made an exception for this guy and said, all right, we can do that. This is what we'll do. Over the next 6 months, we're gonna work to accomplish these things that you're talking about. Well, as we got started, he quickly realized, and he was highly committed, which is why I took him. Because it wasn't about, for him, it's never about the money, but it's about how committed they are. And this guy was committed. His name's Peter Swenson. He's amazing. He said, I'm going to go sell 15 accounts a week, and I'm going to lead my people from that. And then, a couple of months in, he realized for him to go and actually do 15 accounts a week, it's going to require that the whole company transform and the whole company change. And so he said, all right, let's do this. I'm still committed to my 15 a week, but let's bring you in, Parker, and have you talk to the president of sales, because there are some things that this company needs that would make a huge impact for everybody, not just for me, that, rather than me leaving the company that I work for, I would rather change the company that I work for. So he took on the job of taking ownership of the whole entire company transforming. So he did that by bringing me in to the president of sales. And after 2 hours in that conversation, the president says to me, yes, we definitely need these kinds of changes. It'll make a massive impact on the whole company. And so can we work with you in some sort of setting to do that? And I told him the price, and he agreed to it. And it was a large commitment. And that's what it took first. So with that commitment, he starts changing the conversation among the sales operations team and among the different regional managers, and they create a whole entire mastermind, a whole entire company now that's in line with being the best alarm company in the country. And that was all started by Peter's commitment back before. And now he's hired me again to continue, as well as the company hired me. So it's really, they are so amazing. The game that they're playing is so impressive. And I've already heard so much feedback from multiple members of our little mastermind that we've created among the executive team, where they've basically said recruiting is really easy when you actually offer massive value to the person you're recruiting, as opposed to just giving him more money to join just giving up more of your margin. And that happens when someone takes their commitment and takes their conversation to a greater depth, to a greater level. To say that more specifically would be like when they commit that they're going to be totally honest with themselves and with all the people in their organization, and they're going to have a commitment to not holding back, so that if something comes in the way of us producing a result, we'll just address it and resolve it right at its core, get it out of our way, and move forward powerfully. And when a company does that, what starts happening is amazing. They're literally on track for a 100% growth from just one year to the next. And it's not that they're special. They are highly committed, but anybody could do that.
Well, it sounds like to me, and this is this distinction I want to point out and put a spotlight on here, because I don't want anyone to miss this. And I think, I heard it in what you just said, is that when you work with someone, it's now not about the things that they do, or it's not the tactical pieces of sales, of doing the things they need to do. It sounds like the distinction is that you help them become the person that they need to become in order to make that happen. It reminds me of a old Jim Rohn quote about, becoming a millionaire is not about the $1 million. It's about the person that you have to become in the process of becoming that millionaire. And it sounds like that's a big part of what you work on, is not necessarily the tactical steps, but it's about being the person that sees whatever the steps are to a successful outcome. Would that be accurate?
That's 100% right. You see, as you and I both know, there's a big difference between knowing what to do and then doing what you already know. I had a friend who's also a CEO of a company recently, and he asked me, he said, "So what do you actually do? Like, what do you teach people to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't teach people new information. They already have the information. They've had it for a long time. I work with them to be who they need to be so that they can successfully implement the information." In other words, if they're committed and they get into a relationship with me, we will create with them who they need to be to actually make all that great training work. And then they get to go and live that in action in the world. And it's fascinating, it's amazing, and it is for people who are amazing people. They have a level of talent, a level of just commitment that is rare. And that's the people that, and I'm lucky to get to work with them, but those are the people who can successfully implement all these great ideas. We hear about them all the time. All these great trainings. You can go on YouTube and get all this awesome information. Well, then how come 98% of the people aren't getting those kinds of results? Well, it's because they're not being who they need to be to implement all the great information. They're just really not doing it. They're not mentally strong enough.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like, when you think about sports coaches or even businesses that, where you have two leaders. Let's say you take two sales leaders and they both work from the exact same process manuals, procedures manuals, but they get completely different results, even though they're working on the same procedures. So I guess would that be a similar to what you're talking about, where even though the information, they both have the information, it's about becoming the type of person that can take that information to its full potential?
Absolutely. Successful people, they will address and get to the source of and resolve whatever's in the way of them successfully implementing the things that they learn that are great. And people who are not successful, they'll hear something that's great, but they won't be implementing it. And what they'll do instead is they'll just go and look for more information. They'll go to the next seminar, the next training. There is no next thing. People make up a next thing so they can sell it to these people. But really, it's just a matter of you got to get committed. You got to get competent. You got to address and resolve whatever's in the way of you going and implementing what you know to do. And then you just have to get honest with yourself and go do it. And if you're not committed, then just be honest and say, all right, that's just not what I'm committed to. There's consequences for that, so you'd have to acknowledge those, but at least you're being honest.
Well, one of the things that really fascinated me was the fact that, your business, your coaching that you do is not about showing someone how to be successful in the classic sense, because most of the people that you work with are successful, at least to the definition of most people, but they find themselves, like we talked about, at that plateau. And some of the people that you've described are reaching a lot of success, but they may have a great sales team. They may be, have great tactical elements, but if they leave that organization unchecked or take their eye off of it, then it all falls apart. That they're required to be the cornerstone of that, which is, I think, what takes a lot of people's time, which is what leads to those 16, 18-hour days, is the fact that they have to be a constant presence. One of the things that you do is allow people to step back and not necessarily be a constant presence, to be able to allow them to enjoy their lives. And, you even use the term effortless. And that's a big statement there, effortless, when it comes to running a sales organization. Talk about that and kind of what your definition of effortless is, and what that plateau, that wall that you see people kind of running into, even those that are successful, but they may not feel as successful as they seem from the outside.
Yeah, I have someone who I overheard him say this, and then he recently hired me. He said he was doing he was managing a team that was about 3,500 accounts of the service that they sold, which is door-to-door home security, and he says, "Man, I would rather eat a shotgun shell than grow my organization to 10,000 accounts." And what we realized was that the reason why he would say such a thing is because the amount of time that it would take him to grow his organization, the amount of time that it takes him currently to get things done, if you just increased his amount of time working, it would require him to work like 36 hours a day, and that's not possible. So for him, he's like, man, these people in my company keep talking about, oh, you need to go grow, you could do better, and I see other people doing better, but I don't want to do better because that would mean giving up my life and or trying to take on something that I know isn't going to work. And what we basically did with him was we got him to see that if he can be more effective in the way that he communicates and the way that he leads and coaches his organization and his leaders, that he'll be able to not have to see sales take such a huge blow whenever he goes on vacation, but rather that he could actually spend more time at home and around his family and have leaders that want to work with him. They're not doing it because he's holding them to it. They're not doing it because he's holding their feet to the fire and forcing them to, but rather they actually want to work with and under him. And they get way more value from working with him than they do money. And when that's the case, he can actually have a life and business that works effortlessly because he can just be paid to be him. And that's how I run my business, and that's how I highly recommend everybody run theirs. If they want to know more about how to do that, just read the book. I wrote the book on the subject to give everybody the ability to do that. And it's not complicated. It's very simple. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's simple. The math is very simple. The principles are very simple. It's not a whole lot of information, but the book will provide that kind of experience for people if and when they read the book. Just reading it, they'll see things that they were not seeing in terms of what's possible for them to create in their lives. And it was written with that end in mind for the reader. So I'm really excited about it for that actual reason. But yes, it's definitely possible that people can, and people are doing it now, creating way greater result in terms of money, success, and production of their people, and doing it in less time so that they can spend more time with their families, spend more time playing with their kids. And
I definitely want to echo what you're saying there with the book, because it really is. I think no one can walk away from their from reading this book feeling that, double the results requires double the effort, double the time. I think you have a great way of eliminating that fear, or that's what it's going to take. Now, I want to kind of dig into what led you to do this and to work with the people that you did. I know that you started out, you did door-to-door sales early on in your career, right?
I did.
When you think about door-to-door sales, you go back, you always hear the cliches of, well, every no brings you closer to a yes. And to me, that instantly means just work harder, scrub harder, knock on more doors, spend more effort, more time in order to get those results.
Exactly.
Did you kind of learn from that? Did that help you develop this philosophy that you use now in helping people in these high profit situations?
That's exactly it. You're exactly right. I was born and raised in the philosophy of just work really, really hard. My dad took me out mowing lawns when I was young. He taught me how to work hard, and I wanted to make great money, but I didn't want to have to work so damn hard. I wanted to be able to enjoy my life. And so one day I did magic on the side for fun. And one day I talked to my dad and I said, Dad, I want to stop this family business of getting paid $2 a lawn, and I want to go get my own job. And he said, well, you'd have to go find a job that you can make the money that you make here. And, or I don't know how you're going to be able to provide and pay for your stuff that you need. And I said, well, if I can do it, will you let me quit? And he said, yeah. So I went and got a job on the strip doing magic, but it wasn't just any job. It was a sales job. It was actually not 100% commission, but it was hourly plus a big portion of it was commission. And I realized that once I could get paid on commission, I could control my income and I could get really good at what I did and make a whole lot more money in a lot less time. So that's when I stopped associating time to money. You can create way more money in way less time if you know how to do it properly. And that's what I'd learned a little taste of. And then I took that same philosophy over to door-to-door sales where it's 100% commission. And everybody in the company was always talking about just work harder, just work harder. It was like I could hear the voice of my dad. Just if you want to make more money, you have to work more hours. But I saw some individuals rising to the top and their lives seemed great. I wanted to know how they did it. And I went and worked under them and learned how they did it. And I realized, wow, this is not just in this, and that happens to be at one of the largest door-to-door organizations and one of the most successful from a production standpoint organizations in the country. And I realized, man, anybody could actually do what I just did in any organization with any product or service, as long as it's great. As long as it's great, then they could do that and lead and create a platform and build and be able to make way more money in way less time, and with a whole lot less drama and effort. And I mean, I've kind of taken it to the extreme here, but I mean, why not? Anybody could do that. I mean, why not? You only got one life.
That right there kind of brings it around to that title of your book, Real Magic, because that is the real magic to, where most people are thinking that to double your results, you double the time, you double the effort. But you've been able to distill this down to where people can not just double, but even sometimes exponentially grow the results with less time, less effort. And I think that's really where the real magic is. And I think, real magic, the simple art of creating a life and business that works effortlessly. And I think that's where a lot of people make it difficult for themselves. They make it more complicated than it needs to be. And you really have a special talent and ability to let people see beyond that. And I want to thank you for sharing that with us here today.
Well, I have to share one last thing, because when we talk about that, I can just hear half the people listening just getting really angry. And because inevitably this happens, there is a percentage of the people out there that are just, they're so addicted to their ways of doing life, and they're so addicted to being important that they want to work hard and try to prove to themselves and everybody around them how hard they can work. That I'm more valuable because I'm more willing to drive myself into the ground than the next guy. And for them, I say, fine. If that's how you choose to live, if that's what works for you, be my guest. I'm not trying to say that my way of doing it is the right way by any means. And I give anybody total freedom and ability. I don't even need to argue with them. I'm just like, go ahead, do it that way. It's totally fine by us. The way that I live and the way that we know is that this is possible. And it really only takes somebody just having a taste of it and trying it to see that this is, I have a friend, I was playing racquetball in his basement. So he has a basement with a basketball court in it, and then another basement lower than that with a racquetball court in it. And he understands money. In fact, he built this $4 million estate, and somebody who just found out that that was his house wrote him a check for $2 million. He's a financial advisor. They wrote him a check for $2 million just because that's where he lived, and he was a neighbor of a friend, and they saw his house. So they knew he was legit. They paid him a check to have him manage their finances, and just the commissions that he made off of that one deal paid his house payment for 2 years, and it was just because he had the house. See, there's a level of play that people can get to where the way that they think about money, if they're willing to just to not be so committed to being right about the way that they currently think about life and the way they currently see their life and their business and their relationship with money, if they're willing to stop being committed to being right and find out the truth, then they can find new ways of operating that will make results so much more fun and more effortless, and really be a huge win for everybody involved. See, in that deal I just described to you, everybody wins. The client won, my friend won, everybody wins. Nobody has to lose in the deal. It's not a win-lose. It's a win-win or no deal. If it's not a win-win, no deal. And that's just a way to operate that, again, isn't the right way, but it's a way that's possible for people to live. And my commitment with this book was to put it into simple form, to make it entertaining and fun to read, and also to make it transformational. So we're really excited about the book because it is all of those things. And I'm excited for people to just get a chance to read it. I can't wait to hear the feedback about the book.
Well, I think you may have sold yourself short just a little bit, because from what I've seen, one of the reasons I can consider you an influencer is it's not just you creating win-win situations. It's you creating win-win-win-win situations from multiple levels with this, and from the organizations to the leaders that you work with, that you coach, to the people that they lead, the people that work for them, and the people ultimately that buy their products or services, I think, benefit and really to their advantage from the things that you teach and the things that you cultivate with the clients that you work with. So it's incredibly powerful stuff. So again, I want to thank you for sharing that today on the show. How could people find out more? Well, how can they get the book? Because I think that's the bottom line. Is it's as simple as that. Read this book, and I think you're going to see some tremendous potential in your business. So what can they find that?
Just jump on Amazon and grab the book. I'm also recording the Audible version of me doing it, where I'll basically go off script and go on a few rants and stuff and give more detail on a few things. That'll be fun. But we'll tell you, we'll show you how to get that too. I'm sure we'll come up with a way for you to get a copy of that without having to go spend $30 on it through Audible. Grab a copy of the book on Amazon, and that's it. Yeah. Simple as that.
Check it out. Go to Amazon. We'll put a link to the book on the show post, but go to Amazon, look up Parker Winder, the book, Real Magic, The Simple Art of Creating a Life and Business That Works Effortlessly. Again, Parker, thank you so much for sharing this today on Influencers Radio.
Thank you so much, Jack. It's been great talking to you.
All right. There you have it, folks. Check it out. Once again, Real Magic, The Simple Art of Creating a Life and Business That Works Effortlessly. Parker Winder. And until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.